the opening meeting of a brand new FF2M season, 2016 to be exact, and it comes to you from the Nurburgring in Western Germany. And we head into the season with Väinö Kimminen as the reigning FF2M Asia champion from 2015 to 2016, with a fairly convincing championship win in the end over James Clark, who finished second. And because Clark won the 2015 FF2M championship, he is absent, so theoretically Väinö Kimminen could have it easy, but you never know, there are quite a lot of very, very fast drivers out there. Here's a brief look at the calendar, and as previously mentioned, we start off at the Nurburgring before we head over to Italy for the San Marino Grand Prix meeting at Mugello. Then we've got Aragon, Spielberg, Silverstone, Budapest, Hockenheim, Spa, Monza, and then the final meeting of the 2016 season comes to you at Portimao in Portugal. Here's a look at the Nurburgring circuit, and it's the 2001 layout that we are using with the faster right-left S-bend at Castrol. Expecting 38 laps of the feature race with the pit window opening between 14 and 24. Last season saw Jolyon Palmer take pole position, but he was beaten to the feature race win by Sam Bird. And then Väinö Kimminen, reigning 2015-16 FF2M Asia champion, won the sprint race there. But it's a first career pole position for Caterina Caracciola, driving for STV Racing with Nolan Bryant alongside her on the front row. Pierre Gasly starts third with Mattia Alfonsi fourth for Spaniel Racing. Series returnee Cristobal Alvarez qualifies fifth, ahead of FF2M champion Alessandro Farina. Then Benjamin Pryor, the other STV, starts seventh, ahead of Mason Taylor in eighth. Väinö Kimminen down in ninth, which is surprising, but I might suspect a reason for that. Naoki Yamamoto 10th, Sam Bird down in 11th, and the returning Charlotte Plectrum in 12th, ahead of Pascal Wehrlein 13th for Danish racing team and Artem Markelov in 14th. Kamui Kobayashi, former FF1M driver, starts down in 15th, ahead of Esteban Ocon 16th. Then it's an all-liquid target row 8 with Nikita Mazepin 17th and Luca Giotto 18th. Daniel Kvyat way down in 19th, that's very surprising, and Oliver Rowland 20th from the other Magnum Force, and then the back row filled by Louis Delatraz and Pietro Fittipaldi. So reigning champion Kimminen down in... reigning FF2M Asia champion Kimminen down in 9th, but I suspect he might have been on the hards in qualifying. Race underway, and from pole position, Caracciola gets away fairly well. Nolan Bryant has gotten away well as well. Let's see the run down to the first corner. Who is brave enough for a move up the inside? It's Caracciola in the middle, and there's a bit of contact. Alvarez, that was, making nudges on Gasly, and as a result, Nolan Bryant round the outside, taking the lead in the Shake and Bake Junior. Now into the Ford complex, Caracciola second, Gasly third, and then further back down the order, it looks as if they've all gone through the first complex safely. Now then, rounding into the Dunlop Care, here's Pierre Gasly having a look up the inside of Caracciola into the hairpin, and Gasly round up the inside, taking second place off of the Swiss driver. Now Caracciolas better watch out because Alvarez is looming large. What have we got here? That is that a Spaniel being challenged by one of the... Now I'm trying to work out who that is actually. I think the Spaniel was definitely being passed by another driver. Now we've got Sam Bird making contact with his own teammate, that is at Dunlop, and nearly tipping his teammate into a spin. Sam Bird and Pascal Wehrlein, I think that is. And that will do the Danish racing team's race a lot of harm. Now then up the inside, that's off, there's contact, and there's a spinning Spaniel. Is that Kimminen? I think it is Kimminen. Making contact with Naoki Yamamoto, that was, and Kimminen stuck in the gravel, and he's out. Kimminen out of the race, and that's Fittipaldi being nudged by Oliver Rowland at the Dunlop hairpin, and he's going to be dropping down the order somewhat. So yes, Kimminen, that's not a good start to the season at all for him. Now this is Yamamoto on the left. We're on board with one of it's Charlotte Plectrum, Charles Pic, making a move into 10th place as Ocon runs a bit too wide at the first few corners. And is that going to give Kamui Kobayashi an opportunity? Up to the left, and then, so I think it was a Gajera that made a move on Kimminen before Kimminen binned it. So we are looking at Pierre Gasly, and is that Pierre Gasly closing in on race leader Nolan Bryant? I think it is, because through the right-hand kink at Hatzenbach-Borden, and now is he going to try and make a move into the Vidal chicane? Well, he tried it, but he's braked a bit too late and made contact with the American, and Bryant sneaks away a little bit. Now look at the tyres. That's hard tyres on board with Gasly. It must be that Bryant is on hard, and I think Caracciola is definitely on the hard tyres as well for this race. Whichever compound you take for qualifying, you must run the opposite in the feature race and then revert back to the qualifying tyre for the sprint race that follows. And Kinnunen obviously took the hards for qualifying, which meant that he'd ran softs for the feature race, but being involved in an incident and retiring from that hasn't done him good. Now then, Dunlop hairpin, lap 6, Pierre Gasly, challenging Nolan Bryant, son of Jackie Bryant, a professional fighter and former IndyCar racer. And now Jackie is looking after his son Nolan as he further progresses his racing career. He's shake and bake's test driver, and he's been very quick. Well, he was very quick in the FF2M pre-season tests at Kyalami and Bahrain, and he's obviously followed that through into FF2M. They can see Caracciola just 2 seconds behind race leader Bryant, and if these two get into a battle, which Gasly's trying to do into the Hatzenbach-Bowden kink, then Caracciola could make it a 3-way battle for the lead. Further back, Alvarez and Farina quite close together, 4th and 5th. Farina, the reigning FF2M champion from 2015, and that was a fairly convincing one as well, with 7 wins. Worth mentioning that Bryant, Mason Taylor down in 8th, and Caracciola were all in FF2M last season. Let's have a look at the race lead battle. Bryant versus Gasly into the first at Castrol S, and Gasly takes the lead of the race. Now then, Gasly returned to form somewhat in the FF2M Asia series after a very, very dismal 2015 FF2M Europe campaign. But his brief stint with Liquitar has done his confidence quite a bit of good. Is that Yamamoto being challenged by... Is that an AJ about to have a spin? It is. It was Louis Delatraz. Yamamoto versus Delatraz, and now he's switched. I think that is still Delatraz, now trying to make a recovery drive up the inside of Pietro Fittipaldi into the Castrol S, and that was a clean overtake for the Swiss driver. On board with Sam Bird in the recovering Danish racing team. And into the RTL curve, he's made contact with Esteban Ocon, and is he going to spin? Yes, he's going to spin. That was a clumsy one from Bird. And into the pits for the mandatory pit stop. It's Caterina Caracciola. Turns right into the pit box, filled with STV racing mechanics. And Mattia Alfonsi also into the pits, the other Spaniel. A little bit of side pod cleaning on the right-hand side. But away in 6.6 seconds goes Caracciola. Green light, and then remove the pit lane speed limit and off you go. And rejoining in 9th place, but having made that mandatory pit stop. It is still Pierre Gasly, who's built up quite a good lead of 5.6 seconds over Nolan Bryant now. Very briefly, Farina, I think he has passed Cristobal Alvarez. Farina passing Cristobal Alvarez for 3rd at some point, just before this round of pit stops. And see the effect of new tyres. That was 0.6 of a second gained on Kamui Kobayashi that Caracciola made. Now then, how aggressive is Kobayashi going to be into the RTL curve? Well, Caracciola thought about having a look on the inside there, but backing out of it. And briefly, Benjamin Pryor up in 5th place. Charlotte Plectrum 6th, Mason Taylor 7th, and this battle for 8th at the moment between Kobayashi and Caterina Caracciola. And having a very late look into the Vidal chicane goes Caracciola, but that is not going to work. And that's going to put you under pressure a little bit from the Spaniel of Mattia Alfonsi. Now, Alfonsi and Caracciola do not get along with each other. Their history spans back as far as the go-karting days, and Alfonsi did not like Caracciola's presence. And up the inside, and there's, big dive and a big contact, and that's freed Caracciola past Kobayashi. So a bit of a rash move from Alfonsi. Brake way too late, contacted with Kobayashi, and that's cost dearly. Let's see that from on board Caracciola. So there goes Alfonsi way too quickly into the Castrol S and taking out Kobayashi and himself. So let's see what happens next. This is Pryor versus Pick. Now, there's a bit of history between these two as well, because Pick was replaced by Pryor midway through the 2015 FF2M season, and that was just to give Pryor and Alvarez a couple of goes each. in that season. As into the pits comes Nolan Bryant, so Pick's looking to gain one on Benjamin Pryor. And he did do at that point, Pick taking a position away as new fastest lap for Caracciola. Now that she's free of Kobayashi, she's trying to extend the gap, and she's actually jumped Nolan Bryant. That's impressive. But anyway, let's see what happens next as we go on board with the OLM. And now it's a contact from the OLM on Oliver Rowland. It's Charlotte Plectrum spinning into the gravel trap. Now, can Pick rejoin from that, or like Kimmonen, is he going to beach himself? Well, that's Alessandra Farina making a pit stop in 5.6 seconds. Quite a bit later than most, and with a pit window only spanning between laps 14 and 24, yeah, that is quite a late one for Farina. So, this is lap 23 now, and it's still Pierre Gasly in the lead, 5.5 seconds over Caracciola, and Bryant is some 8 seconds behind, and we're having a quick look. This is Cristobal Alvarez in 4th place, challenging Nolan Bryant for 3rd. Into the Dunlop hairpin. How aggressive is this going to be from both drivers? Well, it's Alvarez making the move into 3rd, and on the softs. So, Alvarez qualifying in 5th place on the hard tyres, interestingly, and now that he's on softs of this race, that's looking quite good, actually. Alvarez had those 2 runs in FF2M last season with FJR and scored points, 7th place at Shanghai. Now then, that is an OLM driver that we are looking at, and making an absolute mess of that. Is that Daniel Kvyat? Having a big spin it is indeed. I'm sure Kvyat will have rejoined from that. Now then, lap 27, we've skipped ahead a bit, as we have a look at Kamui Kobayashi versus Oliver Rowland for 7th place, down the main straight into the Castrol S. And is this going to be a position gained? It is indeed for Kamui Kobayashi. And remember, the top 8 are reversed from the feature race into the sprint race, so if it stays like this, Rowland will be on pole position for the sprint race. Is that Farina? That's taking a position off of Nolan Bryant for 4th place, so Farina a bit on the move now and looking to gain more places. He's got 4 seconds between himself and Cristobal Alvarez, who we are on board with now. That's Caracciola in front. Now, is there going to be an attempted move? Caracciola on the older tyres and not defending that one too much, as up into 2nd place goes Cristobal Alvarez. So on those older tyres, Caracciola dropping back a bit and immediately into the clutches of Alessandra Farina. 2 FF2M drivers about to go head-to-head, going down the main straight. So it looks as if that earlier pit stop is starting to come apart a little bit for Caracciola, as up the inside into Castrol goes Farina on those soft tyres as well. So that could have a further effect. But look at the lead that Pierre Gasly's got. It's 17 seconds over Cristobal Alvarez. So Gasly means business in this opening race, as Daniel Kvyat, having rejoined, is going to make a mess and he's going to have to rejoin all over again, as he made contact with the Shake and Bake Junior of Naoki Yamamoto. And what have we got? A replay here of Farina versus Caracciola into... No, it's Kobayashi versus Pryor, actually. That's the battle for 6th place. And, well, Farina had already overtaken Caracciola, so never mind that. Gajira 2s and STV Racing's running quite close together as we have a look at... Well, now we're having a look at Farina. This is a battle for 2nd now. 2 soft tyre runners about to do battle. And into the Dunlop Care. Is there going to be an incident? Not quite, because that's a clean overtake from Farina. Up into 2nd place goes the Italian. Now then, there's a gap of 15.9 seconds between himself and Pierre Gasly. That seems quite large, that gap, as is Caracciola versus Bryant into the RTL curve, and that was a bit of a squeeze, but Bryant's making sure that overtake worked. So, Bryant's up to 4th ahead of Caracciola now, who's starting to really drop back now with those old tyres. This is a Danish racing team that we are having a look at. That's up against Esteban Ocon, and tagging the back of Esteban Ocon and having a spin is Pascal Wehrlein and Sam Bird. Let's see. I'm not liking the look of this, and smash! 2 Danish racing teams going at it once again. They're going to be having a big argument afterwards, as this is Taylor versus Pryor at the chicane. Contact between the 2. Well, that was a bit of a clumsy one, but Taylor up to 8th, and look behind, there's Oliver Rowland as well. I think also Pryor's struggling on the older tyres. As here comes Oliver Rowland, soft tyres on board the Magnum Force driver. And I'm expecting Pryor on the hards to be struggling a little bit to hold on to 8th place. Through the Castrol S goes Rowland. This is a Brit versus Brit, although Englishman in the form of Rowland versus the Welshman of Benjamin Pryor. Have a look at the sponsor on the side of the STV Racing if we get a good enough view. Colours red, white and green to match the Welsh nationality. And a sponsor Poblycwm, which is a Welsh soap opera. And will it be drama for Pryor towards the end of the race? There's 4 laps to go and he's got to withstand this if he's going to start from pole position in the sprint race. But Rowland just looks the quicker driver at this stage. But here it comes. Rowland, is he going to make the move into the Vidal chicane? Pryor trying to defend, but Rowland saw to that one, and he's up the inside and through into 8th place goes Oliver Rowland. And that will be pole position if he hangs on to that one in the final 3 laps. But rounding the final corner, this is now the final lap, and it's going to be a very, very convincing win for Magnum Force's Pierre Gasly. He'll be looking for an FF2M drive next season if he carries on at this rate. And that's a perfect start pretty much to his season. Alessandro Farina takes 2nd, ahead of Cristobal Alvarez 3rd, and then Nolan Bryant 4th and Caterina Caracciola 5th, the front row finishing 4th and 5th. And then Kamui Kobayashi returning to FF2M finishes 6th ahead of Mason Taylor in the AJ Motorsports and Oliver Rowland in 8th. Fastest lap of the race, despite his retirement, went to Sam Bird in the Danish racing team. So that's some consolation for what was a pretty wretched race for the Danish racing team, conglomerate of Pedersen. And you can see the other 2 retirements as well, both Spaniels. That is a disastrous start to the season for them. Reigning FF2M Asia champions, of course. Reigning FF2M Europe champions are actually Gajera 2. And then just looking a bit further down, Nikita Mazepin not doing too badly from 17th on the grid to finish 10th. And conversely, Esteban Ocon having not qualified that well, again not brilliantly racing to 12th. But there's a look at the championship standings. Obviously, as he's won the first race, Pierre Gasly holds the championship lead over Farina Alvarez. And because she had pole position, Caterina Caracciola is ahead of Nolan Bryant, even though Bryant finished ahead in the race. And it's Magnum Force who leads the team's championship. They sit on 13 points ahead of the Gajera 2 team. They sit on 11 points. And it's STV Racing and Willows Jr. tied on 6 points each. And I think it should be Alvarez's 3rd place. That means that Willows are ahead of STV Racing. Shake and Bake Jr. have 5 points, and then AJ Motorsports with 2, and Danish Racing Team hold the 1 point because Sam Bird had the fastest lap of the race. So that was the feature race for the opening race of the FF2M Championship of 2016. We'll be moving on to the sprint race where we will see Oliver Rowland start from pole position ahead of Mason Taylor. We'll see you soon for that.